I'm doing fine. How about
You look
yourself?
so. Yes, I'm wonderful. I'm here in nice sunny Guyana. All right. Are you getting is it cold where you live in Arizona, or
No,
are you guys
Arizona is a desert, so we are. It gets cold at nights, and then it's quite warm during the day.
during the
Yeah.
day? All right. So it's like if you're in Guyana still. All right. You don't miss home.
Yes.
All right. So Dr. David Hinds, he is no stranger to Guyanese. All right. Any Guyanese who has been following current affairs, you would know about Dr. David Hinds. He has been a very vocal member of the past coalition that was in administration. All right. And I think that what separated Dr. David Hinds from all of the rest is that even though he was a part of the coalition and he supported the coalition, somehow or the other, he still remained objective. He called right, and he called wrong, all right, without any fear. All right. So, Dr. Hinds, for those who may now be listening for the first, they're listening to you for the first time, they may not have heard about you. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm a village boy. I was born in Buxton and I grew up there. I went to school there. All my pre university schooling was there. I went to primary school and secondary school in the village. So essentially, I'm a village boy, and um, migrated to do further studies, and so I spend my time now in between Guyana and Arizona, where I teach at Arizona State University. Um, and when I'm not teaching here, I'm in Guyana doing activist work. Politically, I belong to the Working People's Alliance, the WPA, a political party which really was well known in the 1970s and the 1980s, the 1990s, but has declined over the last 20 or 30 years. So the younger generation may not be as familiar with it. Some of them may be familiar with the name Walter Rodney, who's
Yes.
probably the best known of the WPA leaders.
All right. Yes, definitely. All right. So, first thing that I want to ask you, all right, and I'm going to get right to it, and I know that you can answer any question that I ask, all right? So, I remember while I was growing up, I remember hearing the WPA constantly constantly making firm accusations, and you guys had a firm belief that the party that was in power prior to 1992, you believe that they had a hand in the misfortune that in the unfortunate events that occurred to which ended the life of Dr. Walter Rodney. All right, I think that that is no secret. I try to be very diplomatic there, because we run radio. All right, so I know that the WPA always had that view, and you were very vocal about it and so forth. All right, not necessarily you, but the WPA as a collective. So I would like to know, in prior to the 2015 elections, why did the WPA decide to join forces with a party that it accused for the unfortunate events that took place that ended the life of Dr. Walter Rodney? Why did you join up with such a party to form a coalition?
I am very, very glad for that question. Extremely glad for that question. Because I think it's a radio station, and I know a lot of young people listen to radio and so forth. So I'm assuming that your audience is a younger audience. And I think that
Um,
question,
well, I don't know how young, because I'm having an all white 40th birthday party next year. All right, you're invited, so I don't know how young you're talking about. Yes.
younger than younger. Yeah, no, the question you asked is a correct question in the sense that our politics in Guyana and the Caribbean have gone through stages. In the first years of independence, the debate in Guyana and the Caribbean was what should that independence be? Could we break total ties with colonial past, or should we just make reform to the colonial past? And so there were two tendencies in the Caribbean. There was a tendency of the older independence leaders who, having won government, realized that it was difficult to make the radical changes in the society that were needed. And then there was a younger generation who were educated in the Caribbean, and they were more radical. And they felt that we needed to make a clean break with colonialism. And that debate, therefore, meant that there was a concourse of ideas between these two generations of leaders. In Guyana, we had Forbes Burnham of the PNC, Cherry Jagan of the PPP. And despite their differences, they saw the world in the same way. And then you had a younger generation, like Walter Rodney, Clive Thomas, Daye, who died a couple of years ago, who wanted to go in another direction. And what happened in the 1970s is that the clash of those two views took on what we may call revolutionary proportion, because it was an age of revolution. So we're rising up and getting rid of governments. And so the debate spilled over into the streets. And what we had, therefore, was a clash between the fathers and mothers and their sons and daughters. And in Guyana, it took that clash between the WPA and the PNC. Our principal argument against the PNC was that, look, the PNC was doing some good things. It had brought free education from nursery to university. It brought housing schemes to the poor, like in South and Melanie. It built multilateral schools, and it was using government to empower the poor. But in the process, it was locking everybody out of government. It was not including all the forces. It was governing in an authoritarian way. So you had this tension between good social programs, but bad political management. And out of that clash, really came some bitter memories. Walter Rodney was assassinated by agents of the PNC. If we look across the Caribbean, we go to Jamaica, there was heavy violence in the 1970s. Trinidad, there were young revolutionaries who went to the hills and they were killed. All over the Caribbean, that kind of politics. So we came out of that politics as political enemies. But as we got into the 1990s and the PPP came, we saw the PPP surpass the PNC in terms of using the state against people. Now, the PPP did not have a problem of democracy. What they had a problem with was ethnic domination. That they wanted a state that was dominated by one ethnic group. If the PNC used the state for party domination, the PPP used the state for ethnic domination. And the WPA felt that in order to save Guyana from going down the tube, we had to join forces with everybody, including people who we fought and they fought us. And when Robert Corbyn, the then leader of the PNC, approached the WPA to form an opposition front, we readily agreed. And it is out of that opposition front that came...
That was when, yes, that was when you formed the APNU, yes.
Yes, it was out of that opposition front. But why did we do it? We did it because we felt that time had moved on. Forces had changed. The politics of the 1970s were not necessarily the politics of the 2000s. We had a new regime in power. And so therefore, we felt that Guyana needed the parties to come together. And we did that not because we love the PNC or we believe that the PNC is no longer guilty. No, 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 no. We did it in the interest of the country because we believe that parties come and parties go, but the country must remain. And ultimately, the test of any political party is not how good you can work with friends, but how good you can work with people who do not necessarily share your views. So that is why we made that historic decision to join the PNC and others in an all-party coalition.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much for that answer. All right. And so well, like we said before, you were extremely vocal while being a member of the ruling coalition for the past 5 years. All right. You were very objective. Whatever it is that you thought was wrong, you spoke about it, and whatever you thought was right, you also spoke about that. All right. And so there were lots of persons who accused you of being bitter. They say, don't worry with that man. That man is bitter. He's just talking. And so how would you respond now to those critics who felt that, you know what, he is washing dirty linen in public? How would you respond to those critics now?
That's where you wash dirty linen. You wash it in public and you hang it on the line to dry. Don't wash dirty linen in your bedroom to wash it. I know something about country life, and I never see them get the dirty linen in the bedroom. They took it outside in a tub, and they hang it on the line. That's where it belongs. No, but I understand what they were saying. It's a political culture that you don't go against your own, even though you think it's wrong, because you feel that the other side will take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that. I don't agree with it, and I wouldn't subject myself to it. I grew up as a poor boy. When I wrong, my mother and my auntie tell me I wrong and they beat me. And when they finish, they hug me up and they love me. They feed me, they clothe me, and they send me to school. Right? And I live with that philosophy. My criticism of the coalition was out of love, not bitterness. Right? And today, the coalition is out of power. And if the coalition had taken a different turn and had done some of the things that we were criticizing it to do, we would have been in power today.
Did you feel, Dr. Hinds, did you feel that you had to publicly criticize the coalition because maybe inwardly they were not giving you a voice?
That's a very important point. There was no mechanism inside of the coalition. The coalition was created by Robert Corbyn, Clive Thomas, and Rupert Rupnarine. The three of them came up with the coalition idea. The people who took power when the coalition got in power, Mr. Granger, Amnali, Valda Lawrence, they were not coalition people. They were against coalition. And a lot of people didn't know that. But power came.
Say that again. Say that again.
They were.
No, I want you to say it again.
I'm saying that the people who took power after the coalition came to power were anti-coalition. Robert Corbyn, Basil Williams, Lance Carberry, the General Secretary Oscar Clark were the people who we in the WPA met with and built the APNU. David Granger wasn't in politics then. The others were skeptical. They were skeptical of the WPA for good reason, and they were skeptical of coalition politics. So when we got power and these people became leader of the coalition, they didn't know how to massage coalition politics. They were basically party people who believe in party domination. And so that is what they took to the governance of the coalition. And so there were no mechanism. Once the coalition came to power in 2015, the leaders closed down. The PNC leaders closed down the APNU. We would meet and we would chat really about things that are peripheral. We never discussed strategy. We never discussed tactics. We never discussed policy. Those things. There was one functioning institution in the coalition, the cabinet. There was no discussion of policy outside of cabinet. Not in the APNU, not in the PNC, not in the WPA. All right? And so it was a coalition government in name, but in practice, this was a one-party government. And I felt that since there was no mechanism internally to speak about these things, I will speak about them publicly, because I wanted to set an example to young people coming into politics to say, do not allow yourself to be imprisoned by a political party, because you become brain dead.
Wow.
You know, support the party, but be independent of thought. And if you do that, you're able to force your leadership in a certain direction that it would not necessarily want to.
Wow. Well, I think this is very interesting. And, this is the reason why I've chosen to talk to all politicians, all right, from all across the board. I've been talking to PPP. I've been talking to PNC. I've been talking to, now I'm talking to WPA, and I will continue to talk to different politicians, because it's important that the Guyanese people hear from different politicians, because different persons could be in the same situation, but they can all have a different experience and a different account as to what happened. All right. All right. So who is the WPA's voting bloc? Because that was one of the criticisms leveled against the WPA. They were saying that, the WPA is not relevant. They have no voting bloc. I even heard someone say this. All right. The person said, in terms of a business model, the WPA is not really bringing anything to the table. All right. They're saying that the WPA wanted, they wanted to control a large part of the pie, but they were not bringing, they were not bringing, that kind of support to the table. So how would you respond to that?
I start with a general statement. Ignorance is not a friend, eh? And those...
You're very witty.
Conclusions are based on ignorance. First of all, the PNC in 2006 got 34% of the vote. By the 2011 election, the PNC joined with the WPA as the APNU and got 43%. Before they joined with the WPA, they had 34, right? They joined with the WPA, they got 43%, and if you know math, you will know that, look, because of demographics, the PNC cannot win an election on its own. Its supporters are neither a majority nor a plurality. In 1964, the PNC came to power by joining with the UF. In 2015, it came back to power by joining with the AFC and the WPA. And now, what is the WPA constituency? WPA shares the same constituency as the PNC. The same people will tell they like Obi, no, people will say we like David Hinds too. We share the same constituency. But in people's minds, quite rightly, if we have a chance of winning, the PNC gives us a better chance of winning. They have name recognition, they've been in it long, they have more money, they have more activists. I'll put my money with you. However, yes, in 2015 in my village, which is a strong coalition village, got about 76%. 24% of the people didn't vote. I went to most of those people in their homes, and I pleaded with them to vote for the coalition. They said, Doc, or Twilly, depending on what they call me in the village, if it was you, we would vote for you. But them, we not voting, we still. Right? It is that section of the population that is usually disaffected with the party, because the party works in mysterious ways. The party gets power, it doesn't go back to people. It gets power. It enacts policies that are not necessarily what the people want. There is always disaffected people in the society. So what happens? An AFC or a WPA now are able to speak to those disaffected. You see? So in terms of constituency, you're not able to pinpoint the constituency because sometimes, look, a person from Denhamstel or South Georgetown, they come and they talk to you, and they tell you three things. They rob the PNC, but the PNC not representing these people, acting out for all we people, and so on. And they're doing it because we black. They give you three narratives there. They give you the black narrative. They give you the radical narrative, which say you gotta fight. It's WPA. Right? And they give you the pragmatic narrative, which is PNC. So in one conversation, they give you 1/3 ACDA, 1/3 WPA, and 1/3 PNC. If you don't know the society, you don't know what they're telling you. So it's not about constituency. It's about the instincts in people's mind that you represent. All right? Now, I suppose when people listen to somebody like me, they don't think about Sunday school. Right? They think about Pashway. Right? Right? And so somebody like me is able to speak for PNC people, Pashway side. All right? Okay? And Eric Phillips speaks for the cultural side of that. Right? So it's not about constituency. It's about all of us putting our minds together and bringing the force together. The future is coalition. We have to get back to coalition.
All right.
But this time around, it has to be based on respect.
Definitely. All right. Well, you know what? I'm here and I'm being educated because of the things that you're saying. And I just remembered, that Dr. David Hinds is a political scientist, and I think that the way that you explained yourself, I've actually never heard anybody explain the coalition politics like this. So I would say, hats off to you. All right.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
And you're also a lecturer, so you're teaching at the same time.
Yes, the teacher is always there. Yes.
All right. So, what is your take on the events that took place on Elections Day and thereafter? Because we all know what took place. Some people might say, okay, we need to move forward and all of that. Yes, we need to move forward, but we need to also have an understanding of why we are where we are right now. All right. Yeah. And so on Elections Day, we saw opposition forces storming the Ashman's building. All right, we saw ambassadors heading there. We saw persons saying, that the coalition was trying to rig the elections and all of that. And then, of course, we had a very long standoff. I think it was a couple of months, where things were like nothing was really happening in the country because we had the elections debacle, and so no major contract was really being given out during that time. Well, maybe I shouldn't say none, all right, but probably very few, all right. So it wasn't sufficient. It wasn't sufficient enough to say, well, business was happening, all right. Everything was just at a standstill, and we had several court cases, and one week PPP won, 1 week coalition won, and we were like that. So what is your take on all of those events, and would you blame the coalition for anything for any of those events?
All right. Let me say very clearly, I reject the narrative that the coalition was trying to steal the game.
Oh, really?
Yes.
All right.
I reject that narrative. I think what happened in those 5 months is that all of Guyana's demons converged in 5 months. And we are a country with demons. We have the ethnic demon, which we have never been able to take care of. We have never been able to solve our ethnic problems. They remain there. We push them down the road, and every 5 years we go and we meet it. and it's there. So we act our ethnic beef.
Even though it would appear as though the former president tried to solve that with having a ministry of social cohesion and having a lot of social cohesion programs even taking place at State House and so forth.
No, because those things don't get to the heart of the problem.
So those things were just surface related, in your opinion.
Yes. And the state and government do not solve ethnic problems.
Oh wow! So I want you to say that again.
The state and the ethnic state and political parties, government do not solve ethnic problems. Nowhere in the world have they done so. You can point to, let's say, Canada, which has the problem with French speaking and English speaking, and the state was able to make some reforms that guarantee some stability. There are countries like Switzerland that has had language problems also. They are able to control that. But in ethnically divided societies like ours, the state plays a partisan role because the state is governed by an ethnic party. And the ethnic party would be pressured by its supporters to rule in ethnic terms. And the other side will be trying to get rid of that. And so that ethnic party is not in a position to umpire or to referee our ethnic problems. And so neither the PPP nor the PNC is going to be able to solve our ethnic problems. And so the ethnic problems were there, they converged in those 5 months with two other factors. One, that we are now an oil producing country. And when you're an oil producing country, you're no longer in the small league, you're in the major league. You have a big deposit of the
You're in the Confessions of an Economic Hitman League.
Right. Once you become a big oil producer, the big countries and the big multinational operations are now interested in you. The drug dealers and the mafias around the world are interested in you. Guyana is now a changed place. And the elections were taking place in a changed environment in which the country was expected plenty money. Means that when you get to that point as a small society, you no longer have control over who governs. Because Exxon and all the other companies and all the oil moguls, they want a government that is going to do what they say. So elections are taken out of your hands. So the big oil companies, the big countries, America, Britain, Germany, well, not Germany, Canada, they became involved in Guyana's election in 2020 to protect their interests.
So do you think that the coalition understood the league that they were in? Do you think that they were trying the 2015 approach in 2020?
No, they had no idea.
So that means good. So that means that they were trying the 2015 approach in 2020.
In 2020, they were playing Sunday school thing when they had these big forces arrayed against them. No, the PPP, when it was in power, it created what is called the criminalized state, where it collapsed the state and underground interests together. So when the PPP got out of power, a lot of the money, the state money that was funneled to these interests were giving the PPP back money. So the PPP was able to pay a law firm in America $110 million because they got the money from these shady people that they empowered.
That's alleged, isn't it? Alleged, all right? Because I don't know that for a fact, and you don't know that for a fact. So it's alleged, all right? It's alleged. Yes, all right. So
the PPP had access to resources. The PPP was able to lobby international organizations. Those international organizations threw their weight behind the PPP, and we are next door to Venezuela. And America is at war with Venezuela. And America looks and sees Guyana and says, I want a government in power in Guyana that is going to be hospitable to our interests. So you had external interests, you had internal interests, and you had ethnic problems colliding in 2020. And neither party was prepared to give up. And so they went to the courts and they grind it out there and they grind it out there. In the end, one party got outsmarted because they said, look, we're going to do a recount. And the results from the recount, we are going to use. And then they got the results from the recount that showed the other part ducking its hands. And then in the end, the chair said, well, I'm not going to use the recount results. I'm going to use the other results. So what you had was an electoral impasse in which both parties sought to expose the other. Election rigging is normal in Guyanese election.
Really? It's normal?
Normal.
Wow, I've never heard anyone say that. Say that it's normal.
At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, if you're in Enmore and you're a little boy or girl working for the APNU on election day, and you look through that window in Enmore at 5 o'clock and you're a little 19-year-old black girl, you're studying to get out today and get back to Buxton, you abandon what is going on and it's happy hour in Enmore. If you're a little Indian boy from Enterprise and you are in Golden Grove at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you look through the window, you say, boy, I gotta get out today. Happy hour. At the end of the day, elections in Guyana have been determined by who is able to control GCOM and outrig the other side.
So let me ask you this question. When the former president decided that he was going to concede, did he, to the best of your knowledge, right? And I have to say to the best of your knowledge, all right? To the best of your knowledge, all right? I'm putting that out there. Did he consult the other coalition partners, or that was just a personal decision based on what you know?
The WPA was not consulted.
Okay, so you don't know if other parties were consulted, but definitely the WPA.
Other parties were consulted, but I know the WPA was never consulted.
Okay.
During those five months, not once.
Not once.
Not once.
Wow. Okay.
Not once. Not once.
And so the WPA publicly withdrew from coalition politics, well, at least for a while. So do you? So number one, why did the WPA just withdraw?
Well, Mr. Granger determined that we got one seat, and he told us of the one seat, and we determined who was going to represent us in that one seat. But Mr. Granger decided that he is not just leader of the PNC and leader of the coalition. He decided that he is divider in chief, and he chose the WPA.
All right, well, that's just your opinion, right? All right.
Well, yes, but I'm telling you, Mr. Granger chose Ms. Sarabo Ali as the WPA representative. The WPA said to Mr. Granger, have one seat, we're going to divide it between Ms. Sarabo and another of our executive member, an Indian brother, Brother Ali Majid. They're going to split it. Mr. Granger, in his capacity as head of the list, selected Mrs. Ali. The WPA said, you are his pass. And it has gone too far.
Wow.
That is what happened. That is what prompted our
So the person who Mr. Granger selected, so she is not representing the WPA in her capacity as a member of parliament.
She's not. She has resigned from the WPA, and so she has to say who she represents, but she doesn't represent the WPA because we did not choose her. She was chosen by Mr. Granger.
Wow. All right. Yeah. Well, that's some insight there. All right. So would the WPA ever rejoin rejoin with the PNC and the AFC and so forth? Another Justice for All party, they pulled out, but I think the Guyana Action Party, they're still a part of it. And I can't remember the name of Dr. Keith Scott. Is he Doctor or Mister?
Yes.
Mr. Keith Scott Party. All right.
National Front Alliance.
Yes, National Front Alliance. So well, I've not heard anything about them pulling out. So would the WPA join up with them again?
Yes, we believe in coalition politics, and we believe that you have to do what the country requires you to do. And if you listen to the supporters of the coalition, they're all calling, or most of them are calling for the rekindling of the coalition. We are open to that, but we have learned from our mistakes. And if we get into a coalition this time, the arrangements would have to be different.
All right. So what's the WPA doing these days?
We are in the process of making a sober analysis of what has happened since 2015, especially since the last election. We feel that it's important that as political people, we reflect. We have to have a moment of reflection. And we are going through that. We're also a party that of a time that is gone. There were all these left revolutionary parties that came up in the 60s in the Caribbean. Not one of them is there now. They're all broken up and so on. WPA is the only one.
Well, I know for sure. I know for sure that WPA was definitely a revolutionary party back in the days. And, I do believe Dr. Walter Rodney, God rest the dead, I do believe that he was a force to be reckoned with. He wrote a book called How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. I mean, back in those days, to have such critical thinking skills, you really had to be a bright fellow, I think what he wrote about in the 70s, I think that the persons are now getting a grasp. Persons are now understanding what he was talking about. And, one of the things that I really admired about him, he introduced the term grounding. He used to go and ground with the Rastafarians in Jamaica, and I think that was one of the things that was missing from the coalition. All right, this is my opinion. Grounding with the people, what Dr. Walter Rodney started, because I've heard numerous complaints where people would have said, you know what, I helped them to win the elections. And remember, I'm not taking any side, okay? I'm taking an apolitical side, just in case anybody wants to say, well, she's criticizing the coalition or this or that. No, I critique every single party, all right? I bring persons from the PPP here, I ask them hard questions. I brought persons from the AFC here, I ask them hard questions. Everybody's going to get hard questions and going to get some very hard comments, all right? I mean, come on, it's politics. We can't be so touchy, okay? Because I'm just thinking persons might be listening to me and thinking, well, maybe she gone on this side or she gone on that side. No. I'm apolitical, all right? But one of my criticisms would be that they neglected to ground with the people. And to be honest with you, all right, I've heard persons from the coalition tell me personally, they said, anytime I call the champion of the earth, Dr. Jack Dio, regardless of whatever people say about him or think about him, right? They say anytime I call him, he responds. Some of them even said, you know what? Even if you call him and you didn't get through, at some point you better believe that he is going to respond to you. And so I think that for a politician, that's a good trait, because you have to keep connected to the people. You can't just, as soon as you get in office, you forget everybody. You have to remember who put you there, because I've heard persons express that sentiment to me so many times. They said, I came down from the States, I helped them to win the elections, I did this, I did that, I took time off from my job, I give this money, and then, when I went back to the States after they won and I'm trying to call these people, I could never, ever get them. So I think that would be my criticism against the coalition, that they forgot to ground with the people. And I really do agree with you. I mean, from an observer perspective, I really do believe that they were not aware that 2020 you're in the big leagues now, and so the approach was the 2015 approach, which really could not work. It could not work in 2020, and I don't see that approach working in 2025 either. You always have to keep stepping up your game. All right, so Dr. Hinds, what would you like people to know about you before you go? Maybe there's a question that I did not ask, and you want persons to know this about Dr. Hinds, or about what Dr. Hinds has planned, for the WPA and so forth. Just go right ahead and
let
tell
me say
us.
a couple of things. I would prefer David Granger as my president any day over Irfan Ali or Jack. I want to let people know that very, as much as I'm critical of David Granger. All right?
And why? Why would you prefer? Why would you prefer David Granger?
Because he's a decent man. He's not a corrupt man. All right? He brings a sense of decency to the office. When you see David Granger or you hear him speak, he's very careful about what he says. You have a sense of calmness about it. And I think that is very important for politics. Now, I have my criticisms of him, but I want people to understand that. Secondly, I'm a very proud African, very proud black. And I have to, because God and poor people have made it possible for me to get an education that my mother, when I was born, could have never imagined. That our son would have gone on to university and would be carrying on radio and television about politics in a national way. She could not even dream about that. And I thank the people in my village and the poor people in Guyana whose taxpayers' money made it possible for me to get an education. And I feel in the African tradition, I've got to give back. And one of the ways is give back is that I don't let people take their eyes and pass back. Right? I must stand up for them. Now I will have my criticism. Man to man, woman to man, black people to black people. But don't take your eyes and pass back, people. You'll get me dread. Right? But in spite of that, I'm for black dignity. I'm not for black indignity. Right? Remember, a lot of us, Rodney, Quayana, Hinds, Thomas, we oppose a black government. So don't tell us we support this coalition because it's black. You're insulting us, right? We make a distinction between black dignity and black indignity. If black people are wrong, I will tell them they're wrong. If they're right, I will tell them they're right. And if you want to take your eyes and pass them, I'm going to be a barrier between you. I will use whatever God gives me to defend them. Thirdly, I'd like to say that we are at a critical juncture in our history. We are now a different society. We're all rich nation, the rest of the world, they're looking at us. And we have to do a new politics. The old WPA politics is gone. The old PNC politics is gone. The old PPP politics is gone. We are a new politics. Because the PPP is in government, it is able to articulate its politics in a different way from the rest of us. As part of the new politics, being the opposition, have to fight on all fronts. We can't just criticize the people. We can't just every day be shouting PPP. It's that. $297 billion is being spent in the next year on this budget. How much of that is being spent on Amerindian community?
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up. I'm glad that you brought that up, because one of my commentaries was that the opposition is there to serve all people, all right? And the budget passed, I think it's like you said, about $390-something billion. And so after the budget passed, what was peddled around in the media was basically the incident about the MP with the dildo, the two MPs that allegedly had a scuffle, the one MP who was lying on the floor with his pants undone, and the other MP with the missing laptop. So that's what was peddled around in the media. I'm not sure if those things were delay tactics for the budget. I am honestly not sure, all right? However, I was very disappointed as a Guyanese citizen, because every opposition is there, all right, to scrutinize the budget. What is the opposition in the US, in the UK, in Guyana, in Trinidad, in Jamaica? It doesn't matter. But the opposition's function is to scrutinize the budget. The opposition's function at that time, what was that, look, even if this budget is going to pass with or without them, they were supposed to scrutinize it so much and pull out something that should have come to the people's attention, and that should have been peddled in the media all the time. So the opposition's function is really to put pressure on any government. I think that if people are honest, I think they would admit that the PPP was a very good opposition. They kept the government of the day on their toes. But I don't see the same thing happening now. So hence my disappointment, because an opposition works on behalf of all people, all right, or supposed to work on behalf of all people. But I didn't see this playing out around budget time. I don't even see it playing out now. All right, there's so many things that are happening in Guyana right now, and you're basically hearing from the opposition leader. But there are many other major players that held very high positions, very high ministerial positions from 2015 to 2020, and you can't hear from them. You cannot hear from them. I could start calling some names right now, all right? Why are we not hearing from persons like Winston Felix, why are we not hearing from Winston Jordan? Why are we not hearing from those people? All right, now I am not saying anything wrong against the people, all right? But I'm just saying, why are we not hearing from the Kemraj Ramjatans? Why are we not hearing from them? All right, they were major players then, and there's so many people who are looking for representation now. All right, but you can't hear from them. All right, all right. So I'm hoping that that I'll be able to get them on my program. But I'm going to be very honest with you here. Remember, I'm taking an apolitical stance. All right, and so I'm going to be very honest with you. All right, in my pursuit to get politicians on this program, every time I call a PPP politician, you know what they do? They say, yes, Melissa, I'm coming. If they can't come right away, you know what they do? They say, Melissa, I'm going to come. But let me just work all the time, but I'm going to come, all right? And they show up eventually, all right? Yeah. But, in terms of getting the coalition politicians, some of them come, and lots of them just keep putting me off. That's just the truth. I can't lie. This is, listen, this is politics, all right? And if anybody's offended, I'm saying, especially for politicians listening to me right now, if you're offended, you need to toughen up, because this is politics. This is not Dolly House.
That's right.
We have to be frank.
Yeah, if I come onto this program and I say something that offend the leader, no big deal. I'm not in parliament, so I can't get kicked out. If a parliamentarian comes and says something that the leader don't like, he or she is very fearful that they will kick them out of parliament because they can do, right? So we are in a very terrible situation. And the other thing is that, listen, and this is the last thing I'm going to say because I know your time is going. We have 5 months.
I catered for you, don't worry.
We have 5 months to decide if we win. This is what we will do. If we lose, this is what we will do. We lost, and we are lost. Because we didn't strategize. If we lose, what we will do. Good politicians would anticipate your opponent. You will anticipate that if the PPP win, this is what they will do. And for them, put barriers. So by the time they get to that road, you're there already. That's what good politicians do. But you've got to understand politics. You got to understand politics. You've got to understand strategy. If we pick example, we're going to come off the blocks and we're going to be hard hitting. And if we get a pushback, we will pull back. We hit hard, we ain't get no pushback, we hit in harder. Right? That's how politics operates. And our side seems to be lost because we have not worked out a clear strategy as to how you deal with politics in this new era. This new era demands new politics.
Definitely. It demands a brand new strategy. It's not a one-size-fits-all.
That's right.
All right, so Dr. David Hinds, you're a lecturer at Arizona State University?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Associate professor here at Arizona.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Yes, very nice. Well, I really do hope to have you back again on Girl Power. I just want to thank you so much for giving for giving your side of the story, all right? Because, there are many sides to a story. Last night I was reminded that, there's always her side, his side, and the truth, right?
entirely true.
And so I love chatting with politicians because I believe that the populace needs to hear from all politicians. They need to hear the PPP side, the WPA side, the AFC side, the PNC side. They need to hear from everybody. All right.
Yes.
So thank
Yes.
you so much for coming on Girl Power today. I really appreciate it, and I really do wish you all the best. In whatever it is that you're doing, and have a wonderful day. And thank you again. You were very nice, I must say. All right. You were extremely nice when I called you. You were very nice, and you said I'm going to come on the program, Melissa, and you did. All right. And I just want to thank you so much again.
And thank you so much. And public people like when you talk with an interviewer, the interviewer prepares for the talk. and I have to say that you were well prepared.
Thank you so much.
It makes it so easier to talk, to converse, whenever the host of the program is well prepared. I think it's an example for young people in the media. And I think we have some brilliant young people.
Thank you.
The media, and you all can learn from one another on issues like these.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hinds. I really appreciate it. All right. Have a wonderful rest of the day. And to all my listeners, stay tuned because we're gonna be hearing from Radical One. Now, this guy, he's a reggae singer. He's a Guyanese reggae singer, and oh my gosh, this guy has a voice and a half. All right, so stay tuned.
Make me lick you from your neck to your back, then you're shivering, tongue delivering, chills up that spine, that's mine. Skip the wine and the candlelight, no crystal tonight. It's alright with you,
that's all.
Deja vu, the blood spark, finger in the park, pissy off Bacardi Dark. Remember when I used to play between your legs? You begged for me to stop because you know where it would head. Straight to your mother's bed, not the Marriott. We'd be lucky if we found a spot next to your sister. Damn, I really missed her. Way she used to rub my back when I hit that. Way she used to giggle when your would wiggle. Now I know you used to sweets at the Parker Meridian, trips to the Caribbean, but to
everybody to the Wild Wild West, a state that's untouchable like Elliot Ness. The track hits your eardrum like a slug to your chest, like a vest for your Jimmy in the city of sex. We in that sunshine state where the bomb ass him be, the state where you never find a dance floor empty and pimp speed. On a mission for them greens, lean, mean, money making machines serving fiends. I've been in the game for 10 years making rap tunes. Ever since Honeys was wearing Sassoon, now it's 95 and they clock me and watch me diamond shining, looking like a Rob Liberace. It's all good from Diego to the Bay. Your city is the bomb if your city making pain. Throw up a finger if you feel the same way. Straight putting it down for California.
Oh man, you're living too dangerous, too dangerous, too dangerous. Oh man, I live dangerous. last night. Woman last night.
Somebody told me you ain't doing me right.
She wasn't doing me right. She wasn't doing me right.
While I've been turning my back, you've been no playing the field.
She just playing the field, playing the field.
Can you look me in the eyes and say to me it's not
Girl,
real?
that could not be real. Couldn't
That's
be
all I
real.
wanted to know.
Just wanna know, girl.
That look it's giving you away.
Give it away, no.
And I never believe in a single word.
I never believe in that.
You're living dangerously.
Woman, you're living too dangerous for me.
You're living dangerously.
Is it me about rent and leaving?
You're living dangerously.
Girl, you're living too dangerous for me. None of mercy, hey. Girl, you're living too dangerous. Boy, better if you give it up. Girl, you never stop and kill you pass the maximum.
You get up every day and you gone to the gym. I miss a while, so you up and look trim. Body where you got, gal, I kill everything. Gal, you live by your phone, for your things stop the ring. If I just want to crime, you would have get that prison. FBI, you would have until you take out something. But you then, I know you're not let have nothing. Cause I tell you them, I look, but you are sweet rose apple.
You a boss the place, a boss the place, a boss the place, you boss. Girl, you a boss the place, a boss the place, a boss the place, you boss.
All you see them a go like them run the place. All them a run and them come lost in them race. All them a come and go like bad boy too. Them a who, Scooby-Doo, cartoon character. Yeah, Mickey Mouse, the style him walk capture. Cartoon character. Yeah, now you back up in a James Bond actor. Cartoon character. Yeah, Donald Duck, me style him walk capture. Cartoon character. Yeah, turn the page and start on you.
This is what you're about doing. I'm a Shellian is not the same. Me woulda shame. Me and you a friend, but just me doing. You can't have a girl and every night she complain. Me vexing up.